My mom raised her glass. We all know which grandkids will succeed. My son looked at me and asked, "Is she talking about me?" My mom ignored him completely. Then my hubby walked up to my mom looking angry and said something that made them all turn pale. My mother has this gift. And I don't mean a good gift. I mean the kind where she can walk into the happiest moment of your life and make you feel like you're absolutely nothing. She's been doing it since I was 12 years old, and for the longest time I thought it was normal. I thought every mom told their kid they were at the practice run before the real children came along. That would be my younger sister Brooke. Perfect Brooke. Homecoming queen Brooke. Married a dentist Brooke. Me. I'm Tamara. The one who got pregnant at 22, married a long-haul trucker named Dean, and apparently ruined the family trajectory. But here's the thing nobody expected. What happened at Brooke's baby shower 2 Saturdays ago? That was the day everything in my family finally cracked wide open. And honestly, I didn't start it. My mother did. She just didn't realize the wrong person was listening this time. Let me back up a little so you understand the full picture, because if I just jump into the baby shower, you're gonna think my husband lost his mind for no reason, and trust me, there were years of reasons. Dean drives trucks. Long routes, sometimes gone 2 or 3 weeks at a time. He's been doing it our entire marriage, 9 years now. And I love that man, I really do, but when your husband is on the road that much, you're basically a single mom 80% of the time. We have one son, Caleb. He's 7. Sweetest kid you'll ever meet, a little shy, a little chunky, and yeah, I know some of you are already thinking, oh no, the mom said something about his weight, and you'd be right, but we'll get there. My point is, Caleb is my whole world, and Dean's too, even though Dean doesn't always get to be there for the school stuff and the doctor's appointments and the parent-teacher nights. I handle it all. And I never once complained to my mother about it. You know why? Because every time I opened my mouth about anything, she'd find a way to flip it into proof that I made bad life choices. Like I'd say, "Mom, it's hard doing bedtime alone every night," and she'd say, "Well, Brooke's husband is home by 6 every evening." Very helpful. Thank you. So yeah, I stopped telling her things. But that didn't stop her from talking. Now here's what you need to know about my parents. My dad Glenn is quiet. He's not a bad man, but he's the kind of guy who just lets my mom run the show. Whatever she says, he nods. Whatever she wants, he goes along with. And my mom Phyllis, yes, her name is Phyllis, and yes, she has the energy of every Phyllis you've ever imagined. She has this need to be the center of everything. Every holiday, every birthday, every family event has to revolve around her opinions, her preferences, her commentary. And her favorite topic? Comparing me and Brooke. Guess who always wins that comparison? Now do you think I'm exaggerating? Because I promise you I'm not. And what happened at that baby shower is proof. So Brooke is pregnant with her first baby, and my mom is over the moon. I mean, she planned this shower like it was a royal wedding. She picked the venue, this fancy brunch place in Charlotte. She picked the decorations, the cake, the guest list. She even picked what Brooke was going to wear. And you know what? I was fine with all of that. Brooke is my sister. I love her. I was genuinely happy for her. I even helped with the gift bags. I drove 45 minutes with Caleb in the back seat to be there early and set up chairs. But here's the thing that was different about this particular day. Dean was home. He'd just come off a 3-week haul from Oregon, and he told me, "Tam, I'm coming with you this time. I haven't seen your folks in months, and I want to be there for Brooke too." And I said okay, but honestly, I was nervous. Because Dean has never really seen how my mom acts around me at family events. He's always on the road. He hears about it later on the phone when I'm crying at midnight, but hearing about it and seeing it? 2 very different things. We get to the venue. It's beautiful, I'll give my mom that. Pink and white everything, little gold accents, flowers on every table. Brooke looks gorgeous. My dad's in the corner eating shrimp like it's his job. And my mom? She's walking around like she's hosting the Oscars. Greeting everyone, hugging people, making sure everyone knows SHE did all of this. Dean walks in carrying our gift. This big box with a stroller we saved up for, and my mom barely looks at him. She says, "Oh Dean, you actually came," like he'd been personally uninvited. Dean just smiled and said, "Wouldn't miss it, Phyllis." He's polite like that. Always has been. We sit down, Caleb's next to me coloring on a placemat, and things are going fine for about an hour. Brooke opens gifts. People are laughing. My Aunt Regina is already on her 3rd mimosa and telling stories about her own pregnancies. Normal family stuff. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, maybe today will be a good day. Maybe mom will just not do the thing she always does. And then she did the thing. My mom stands up. She taps her glass with a little spoon. You know, like she's giving a toast at some gala. And everyone goes quiet. She looks around the room with this big smile, holds up her champagne and says, "I just want to say how proud I am of Brooke. She's given me so much to be proud of. Her career, her marriage, and now this beautiful baby on the way." And people clap. Fine. Normal. Nice even. But she didn't stop there. You knew she wasn't going to stop there, right? She takes a breath and goes, We all hope the best for our children and our grandchildren. And I think we all know, she laughs a little, we all know which grandkids are going to really succeed in life. Some kids just have that advantage from the start. The room got weird. Like people were smiling but you could feel it shift. Because it wasn't subtle. My cousin Derek actually looked at me from across the table with his eyes wide like did she really just say that? And then, and this is the part that still makes my chest tight, Caleb tugged on my sleeve. My 7-year-old son pulled on my arm, looked up at me with those big brown eyes and whispered, "Mommy, is Grandma talking about me? I want you to sit with that for a second." A 7-year-old child heard his grandmother imply, in front of 30 people, that he wasn't going to succeed. And he understood it. Kids aren't stupid. They hear everything and they understand more than we give them credit for. I didn't know what to say. I pulled him close and whispered, "No baby, Grandma's just being silly." But he didn't believe me. I could tell because he stopped coloring and just sat there, quiet, looking at his hands. And that's when I looked across the table at Dean. Now listen, Dean is not an aggressive man. He's 6'2" big guy, calm, patient, the kind of man who says yes ma'am to cashiers. But I saw something in his face I had never seen in 9 years of marriage. His jaw was tight. His hand was flat on the table. And he was staring at my mother like he was doing math in his head, adding up every phone call where I cried, every holiday I came home hurt, every time I told him, my mom said something again. 9 years of math. And the total just came due. He didn't move. Not yet. But I could feel it coming. And honestly, so could everyone else. My mom, completely oblivious, kept going. She started talking about how Brooke's husband Martin had just been promoted and how their baby was going to have every opportunity. And she actually looked, in my direction when she said, "Not every child gets that kind of start, but thank God this one will." Dean pushed his chair back. And I swear the sound of that chair scraping the floor made every single person in that room hold their breath. He stood up, walked around the table slowly, not fast, not dramatic, just steady, and he stopped right next to my mother. She was still holding her glass. Still smiling. Like she had no idea what was coming. Dean leaned in and in this low voice, calm but so sharp you could cut glass with it, he said, "Phyllis, I've kept my mouth shut for 9 years out of respect for tomorrow. I've paid for your vacations. I've covered your car repairs. I've sent money when Glenn needed dental work. And I never once threw it in your face because you're my wife's mother. But you just stood up in front of this entire room and told my son he won't succeed. You looked at a 7-year-old child and told him he's less than. So let me be very clear with you, and everyone at this table can hear me." He paused. The room was dead silent. Even Aunt Regina put her mimosa down. "The vacations are done. The checks are done. Every single thing I have quietly funded for you and Glenn. Finished. You want to talk about which grandkids will succeed? My son is going to succeed because he has 2 parents who would walk through fire for him. And starting today, I'm done setting myself on fire to keep you warm." My mother's face went white. My father put his shrimp down. Brooke's husband Martin just sat there with his mouth open. And Dean, my quiet, patient, gone 3 weeks at a time husband, took Caleb's hand, looked at my son and said, "Let's go, buddy. Grandpa packed good snacks in the truck." Caleb smiled for the first time in 20 minutes. I grabbed my purse, looked at my mother, and I said the only thing I could think of. "He's right, Mom. About all of it." And we walked out. Now, you're probably thinking that's the end. That we drove home and that was it. But oh no, that was just the beginning. Because what my mother did next, the phone calls, the texts, the things she said to our relatives about Dean, about me, about Caleb, that's when things got really ugly. And honestly, that's when I realized I was done being the daughter who just takes it. You have no idea what she said about my son 2 weeks later. I still can't believe it came out of her mouth. But I'll tell you about that soon because what she did pushed me past a line I didn't even know I had. Stay with me on this one. It gets worse before it gets better. So after we left that baby shower, I thought maybe, just maybe, my mother would call and apologize. I know. Some of you are laughing at me for even hoping that. But she's my mom. No matter how many times someone hurts you when it's your mother, there's always this tiny stupid voice in your head saying, maybe this time she'll get it. Tell me I'm not the only one who does that. She didn't apologize. What she did instead was launch a full campaign against us. Within 3 days my phone was blowing up, but not from her directly. Phyllis doesn't operate like that. She works through other people. First it was my Aunt Regina saying Dean embarrassed my mother. Then my cousin Derek's wife Stacy texting to check on me. Then my dad Glenn who called and said exactly 4 words. "Your mother is crying." Not "your mother was wrong." Not "I'm sorry about what she said. Just fix it tomorrow." And here's what really got me. She told people Dean threatened her. Physically threatened her. You guys, Dean didn't raise his voice. He spoke firmly and told her the truth. But in my mom's version, He was a violent man who terrorized a sweet grandmother at a baby shower. She even told Brooke she was afraid of Dean now. Do you think that's fair? Because I was literally shaking when I heard that. Dean came home from a short run and found me at the kitchen table scrolling through all the messages. He sat down, looked at me and said, "How bad is it?" I showed him everything. He was quiet for a minute, then said, "Tam, I'm not apologizing for what I said. And I'm not letting your mom rewrite what happened. Every person in that room heard her." He was right. But you know how family works. The truth doesn't always matter. What matters is who tells their version the loudest. And nobody is louder than Phyllis. For about 10 days I just tried to stay out of it. Didn't call my mom, she didn't call me directly. I focused on Caleb, focused on my medical billing work from home and tried to let the dust settle. Dean went back on the road, a 10-day haul to Nevada, and it was just me and my boy. Then my mom showed up at my house. No warning. No call. Just her SUV in my driveway on a Tuesday while Caleb was doing homework. My stomach dropped. For a second I thought about not opening the door. But Caleb saw her and said, "Grandma's here," in this flat little voice that broke my heart because he used to get so excited when she came over. She walked in carrying a bakery bag. She always brings food when she wants to play nice, and said, "I'm not here to fight. I just want to see my grandson." That stupid little voice in my head again. So I let her in. She sat at the table with Caleb, asked about school, looked at his homework, gave him a cookie. 15 minutes of normal. And I thought, maybe Dean's words landed. Maybe she finally gets it. I went to the bathroom. Gone maybe 3 minutes. When I came back, Caleb's face was different. He was staring at his cookie, not eating it. And my mom was leaning back with this smirk I've seen my entire life, chuckling to herself. What happened? Oh, nothing, we were just talking. I looked at Caleb. Baby, what did Grandma say? Quiet at first. Then he pushed the cookie away and said, "Grandma said maybe I should eat less cookies because I'm getting too big. She said other kids are going to laugh at me. My son is 7. His pediatrician says he's healthy and growing exactly the way he should. He plays soccer on Saturdays. He rides his bike every day. He is a normal, healthy, beautiful child." And my mother sat in my kitchen, in my house, and told him to his face that kids would laugh at him for his weight. While I was in the bathroom. Because she waited until I left the room. You know that feeling when your blood goes hot and cold at the same time? That's where I was. "Get out of my house." She started with the act. "Oh, Tamara, I was just being honest, someone has to." "Get out. You're overreacting, I'm his grandmother, I have a right." "You have a right to nothing in my home. Get out. Now." She grabbed her purse, gave me this look like I was the most ungrateful daughter alive and said, "Brooke would never speak to me this way." I said, "Brooke wasn't in the room, Mom." "I was." She slammed the door so hard my kitchen window rattled. And Caleb started crying. Not loud, just quiet tears while he stared at his cookie like it was poison. I held him. I told him, "There is nothing wrong with you. Not one single thing. Grandma was wrong." He said, "Then why did she say it? How do you explain to a 7-year-old that his grandmother is cruel? How do you answer that?" "I still don't know. I called Dean that night. He was somewhere in Utah. I told him everything." Long pause. Then he said, "That's it, Tam. We're done with quiet. It's time your family sees who your mother really is." And for the first time in my life, I agreed. So here's what we did. Dean came home 3 days later and took a full week off. No runs, nothing. He said, "This is more important." First thing he did was write a group text. Not to my mom. Not to my dad. To everyone. Aunt Regina, Cousin Derek and Stacy, Brooke and Martin, my Uncle Pat, my mom's best friend Donna, her card-night neighbor Linda. Everyone. It said, "This is Dean. I want to clear the air about the baby shower. Phyllis has been sharing a version that isn't true." I did not threaten her. I told her calmly that her words about my son were unacceptable. I also let her know I will no longer be financially supporting her and Glenn, which I've been doing quietly for years. Vacations, car repairs, medical bills. Tamara and Caleb deserve to have the truth out there. He showed it to me before sending. Said, "Your call, Tam." I hit send for him. Within an hour, everything shifted. Aunt Regina texted, "Wait, Dean's been paying for their vacations?" Derek called, "Your mom told everyone she and Glenn paid for everything themselves." Even Brooke sent a message, "Tamara, is this true?" About the car repairs and dental work. What my mother didn't count on. Dean had receipts, bank transfers, Venmo history, 7 years of proof. And when people started asking questions, we had answers. My mom called me 11 times that night. I didn't answer. She called Dean 6 times. Nothing. Then she sent Glenn because that's what Phyllis does when she's cornered. My dad showed up the next morning looking tired and embarrassed and said, "Your mother wants Dean to delete that message." Dean stepped onto the porch and said, "Glenn, I respect you. But your wife told our family I threatened her. She shamed our son in our own home. And she's been lying about who pays for your lifestyle. The message stays." My dad stood there for a second. Then he said something that surprised me more than anything. "I know she goes too far sometimes." From Glenn. That was practically a whole confession. He left without another word. Now you're probably thinking things calmed down. The truth was out, people adjusted, everyone moved on. But no. Because Phyllis doesn't get exposed and just accept it. She doubles down. She always doubles down. And what she tried to do next, the way she went after us even harder, what she said about me to my own sister, that pushed me to do something I never thought I was capable of. I need you to be ready for this one. Because when someone comes after your child, something changes inside you. You stop being the nice one. You stop being the peacekeeper. And you become something else entirely. That's exactly what happened. So after Dean sent that group text, you'd think my mother would go quiet. Regroup. Maybe reflect. But if you've been following this story, you already know Phyllis doesn't reflect. Phyllis retaliates. 2 days later, Brooke called me. Her voice was off. She said, "Tam, Mom told me Dean got fired from his trucking company and that's the real reason he cut them off. She said you guys are broke." I laughed. Not because it was funny, because how do you even respond to that? Dean got promoted 4 months ago. He's a lead driver now, picks his own routes. We're doing fine. And my mother invented an entire lie about him losing his job just to save face. I said, "Brooke, Dean got promoted in January. I can show you his pay stubs." Brooke went quiet, then said, "She lied to me." Just flat. Like something clicked. Then she said something I'd waited years to hear. "I believe you. And I'm sorry about what she said at the shower. I should have spoken up." Do you know how long I waited for that from my sister? I almost cried on the phone. Now here's where Dean and I made our next move, and I need you to tell me, too far or exactly right. Dean said, "Your mom won't stop lying until she runs out of people who believe her. We show them the receipts." So that's what we did. He printed 7 years of bank statements, Venmo transfers, and text messages where my mother literally asked us for money. Texts like, "Dean honey, Glenn needs new tires, can you handle it? And can Dean cover the beach rental for June?" 7 years of treating my husband like an ATM while telling everyone she and Glenn were self-sufficient. We didn't blast it on social media. But when Aunt Regina came for her weekly coffee, I laid it all on the kitchen table. Every page. She read through it for 10 minutes, then looked at me and said, "Your mother told me she lent you money last year." I said, "Mom hasn't given me $1 since I was 19. Regina said, "I owe you an apology, honey." And here's the thing about Regina. She's loud, she's nosy, but she's fair. And once Regina knows the truth travels fast. Within a week, the entire family had the real story. That's when things crumbled for my mother. Uncle Pat called Glenn and said, "Your wife's been lying and it's embarrassing." Mom's friend Donna said she needed space. Even Linda, the card night neighbor, told her the shower toast was out of line. One by one, my mother's audience disappeared. For someone like Phyllis, someone who lives for the performance, who needs people watching and agreeing, that was the worst punishment imaginable. She was losing her stage. Then something unexpected happened. My dad called. Not with his usual "your mother is upset" script. He said, "Can I come see Caleb?" Just me. Glenn never does anything without Phyllis. But I said yes. He came over Saturday, sat on the floor with Caleb building Legos for 2 hours. Didn't mention my mom once. On his way out he said, "I should have stopped her a long time ago." From Glenn, that was a revolution. 2 weeks of silence from my mother. Nothing. And honestly, the silence was almost harder than the fighting. Then Brooke called and said, "Mom's not doing well. She barely leaves the house. He cries every day. She knows she messed up but doesn't know how to fix it." I said, she could start with an apology. But my real concern was Caleb. He'd started asking things like, "Am I fat, Mommy? And do you think I'm going to succeed?" Using that exact word. Succeed, because he remembered it from the toast. 7 years old, carrying those words like rocks in his pockets. I told Brooke, if Mom wants to fix this, she apologizes to Caleb first. Not me. Not Dean. To his face. And it better be real. A week later, a handwritten letter showed up in our mailbox. Addressed to Caleb. On actual stationery in my mother's handwriting. Said she was sorry. That what she said at the shower and in our kitchen was wrong. That he was a wonderful boy and she wanted to do better if he'd let her. Caleb read it slowly, looked up at me and said, "Is Grandma really sorry?" I said, "I think she's trying, baby." He said, "One more chance." But only one. 7 years old. More mature than most adults I know. A few days later, my mom called me for the first time in over a month. Shaky. She said, Tamara, I know I don't deserve your time. What I said at the shower was cruel. What I said to Caleb was worse. And what I told people about Dean was a lie. I was embarrassed and I lashed out and I'm ashamed. She didn't fill the silence with excuses. He just waited. I said, Mom, you've been comparing me to Brooke since I was a kid. You've made me feel like I wasn't enough for 30 years. If you want back in our lives, you have to see me. Not Brooke's sister. Me. He was crying. I want to try. Dean was less forgiving. He told her, Phyllis, one chance. Because Tamara's asking. But you will never speak to my son that way again. And the financial support is done permanently. She said, I understand. And she actually called Regina and Donna and corrected her own lies. Told them Dean never threatened her. Told them she'd been wrong. My dad said watching her make those calls one by one was the hardest thing he'd ever seen. Last Saturday we had dinner at our house. Me, Dean, Caleb, my parents. First time since everything. Awkward at first. But then Caleb showed my mom his Lego city and she sat on the floor with him and actually listened. She said, this is incredible, Caleb. You're so creative. And it wasn't fake. I could tell because she wasn't looking around to see who was watching. At the door she hugged me and whispered, I'm sorry it took all this for me to see it. I said, me too, Mom. Is everything perfect? No. Trust doesn't rebuild overnight. But for the first time I feel like my mother sees me. Not as the daughter who didn't measure up. Just as Tamara. And that's all I ever wanted. Caleb asked yesterday if Grandma could come to his soccer game. I said yes. That felt like everything. So that's my story. Messy, painful, and I didn't handle every moment perfectly. But sometimes things have to break all the way before they come back together stronger. If you're dealing with something similar, a parent who compares you, who tears you down, who makes your kids feel small, you're not crazy and you're not being dramatic. If you enjoyed this story, leave a like. It really does mean a lot. And if you would have done something differently or disagree with anything, drop it in the comments. I'm not perfect. I just did the best I could. Thank you so much for watching. Seriously, it means the world.